The Starless Roof had never returned a name by morning. That was why the Dragon Court brought Elowen Mar there in chains. Not to kill her loudly, not to stain the throne hall with another public execution. They wanted something cleaner than blood. They wanted her erased so completely that by dawn, no servant would remember carrying her food, no guard would remember locking the door, and no royal record would remember she had ever stood accused before the Dragon King. Elowen stood barefoot at the center of the black chamber, while the court watched from the open arch behind her. The room had no windows, no torches, no moonstone lamps. Above her stretched a ceiling of polished black obsidian, so smooth it looked like a sky after every star had been scraped away. The stones drank light. Even the silver chains on her wrists looked dull beneath that roof, as if metal itself had begun to forget how to shine. They called it mercy when they wanted to sound civilized. Everyone knew what it was. A disappearance. Elowen lifted her head anyway. She wore a plain gray prison dress, torn at one shoulder, the hem dark with rain from the long walk across the outer court. Her dark brown hair hung loose down her back. A thin scar crossed the inside of her left wrist, the mark of the first night someone had tried to prove her blood was cursed. She was slender, pale from years of tower work and hunger, but there was a stillness in her that made several nobles look away. That pleased her. Fear was the last thing they had failed to take. Lord Archivist Cadron stood beside the arch in robes of midnight blue, stitched with silver thread. He was the king's uncle, though he looked more like a blade than a man. Tall, narrow, gray-eyed, with white hair bound at the nape of his neck and a ring of black star, metal on one finger. In his hands rested a leather record book with no title. Elowen Mar, he said, voice smooth enough to make cruelty sound ceremonial. Cursed record, keeper of the Lower West Archive, accused of carrying forbidden star marks, corrupting royal lineage charts, and speaking the vanished queen's name in a restricted hall. A murmur passed through the court. The vanished queen. Even after 20 years, people lowered their voices around that wound. Elowen looked past Cadron to the man standing at the threshold. Dragon King, Cassian Vare. He did not sit on a throne tonight. The Starless Roof had no throne inside it. Perhaps even kings knew better than to place their power beneath a ceiling that erased memory. Cassian stood in black dragon armor, a dark cloak falling from his shoulders, his crown a thin band of red gold against hair black as storm water. His eyes were amber, not warm, but burning low, like coals hidden under ash. He was younger than the portraits made him seem, more dangerous too. The court said his mother, Queen Seralyra, had vanished beneath this roof when he was a child after betraying the dragon line with Star Witch blood. The court also said Cassian had never spoken her name again. Elowenhut. That was why she was here. Cassian's gaze settled on her wrist. Show the mark. Cadron's mouth tightened almost invisibly. Elowen saw it. So did Cassian. A guard seized Elowen's arm and yanked up her sleeve. The thin scar along her wrist showed first. Then, under the skin, something faint glimmered, 3 pale dots arranged like a broken constellation. They were not bright enough to impress anyone. Not bright enough to frighten a court that had come prepared to call her cursed. A noblewoman laughed softly. That is the forbidden star? Blood? Elowen did not answer. The first rule of surviving archives was to let fools underestimate ink until it dried around their throats. Cadron lifted the untitled book. The Starless Roof was built after the first succession wars. Those who carry false stars are placed beneath it for one night. If their marks are lies, the darkness consumes them. If their marks are true, the roof records them. Has it ever recorded anyone? Cassian asked. The question cut through the room. Cadron smiled gently. No, Your Majesty. Then the test has only ever erased. A few nobles shifted. Elowen looked at Cassian again. There was no mercy on his face, but there was something worse for Cadron. Attention. Cadron bowed his head. False stars do not deserve memory. Cassian's jaw hardened. That was not an answer. It was history. The black ceiling seemed to darken above them. Elowen felt it before anyone else did, a pressure behind her ribs, as if the roof had heard the word history and hated the shape of it. Cassian looked at her. Did you speak my mother's name? The chamber went silent. Cadron's black star metal ring tightened around his finger. Only slightly. but the skin beneath it whitened. The untitled book in his hands shivered once, and for a heartbeat, one blank page turned by itself before snapping flat again. Elowen saw it. Cassian saw it too. She knew the safe answer. No, she knew the useful answer too. I do not remember. That was what the Starless Roof did to people before it swallowed them fully. It loosened names from the mouth. It made truth feel distant. It taught the living to doubt themselves before erasing them. Elowen had spent 5 years copying damaged lineages in the lower archive. She had seen names scratched away from dragon family trees, heirs written as fever deaths, infant princesses marked unborn, queens moved from royal blood to foreign scandal. One name appeared more than any other in the margins, always half-burned, always rewritten. Seralyra, Cassian's mother. So Elowen met the Dragon King's eyes and said, "Yes." The court hissed. Cadron closed the record book too quickly. The black ring on his finger gave one dull pulse. Cassian did not move. Why? Because someone had to remember how it sounded. The words entered the chamber like a thrown blade. For one breath, Cassian's face changed. Not softness, pain before command could bury it. Then Cadron stepped forward. "You hear her, Your Majesty. She does not deny forbidden memory. She romanticizes it." Elowen turned her head toward him. "You call everything forbidden after you erase it." The court erupted. A guard struck her across the mouth. Cassian's hand moved. Only slightly. But the nearest torch outside the arch flared red. Everyone saw. Kydran saw most of all. Blood warmed Elowen's lip. She straightened slowly and refused to wipe it away. Cassian's voice lowered. "No one touches her again unless I command it." The guard went pale. Elowen looked at him, startled despite herself. Cadron's smile remained perfect. "Of course, Your Majesty. The roof will finish what hands need not." He opened the untitled book and held it toward the black chamber. The pages were blank. "Elowen Mar will sleep beneath the starless roof until dawn. If the darkness finds no true star in her blood, her name will fade from all living record. Her possessions will be burned. Her service will be unmarked. Any memory of her will be treated as relic contamination." He looked at her. "If the roof rejects you, cursed woman, no law will mourn you." Elowen's stomach tightened. There it was. Not death. Worse. A life made impossible to prove. Cassian stepped closer to the threshold. "And if the roof records her?" Cadron's fingers tightened on the book. "It will not." Elowen looked up at the black ceiling. For the first time, one of the pale marks beneath her wrist burned. Not brightly. Not yet. Like a star trying to remember where the sky had gone, she looked back at Cadron. "And if morning remembers me," she asked, "will you still call darkness the truth?" The archway fell silent. Cassian's eyes fixed on her. Cadron's smile thinned. "Seal the chamber." The guards withdrew. The stone door began to close. As the last line of torchlight narrowed, Elowen saw Cassian still watching her, his amber eyes unreadable and fierce. Then the door shut. The starless roof swallowed the room. Darkness pressed down so completely that Elowen could not see her own hands. For a while she stood. Then her legs gave way, and she sank onto the cold floor, wrists chained, mouth bleeding, heart beating too loudly inside a chamber built to erase sound. Names began to slip from her mind. Not all at once. Small ones first. The guard who had struck her. The servant who had given her water that morning. The color of the archive door. The shape of her mother's hands. Then larger things. The lower west archive. The sound of rain on the tower stairs. The first letter of her own surname. Mar. No. Was it Mar? Her breath turned sharp. She pressed her chained hands to her chest, trying to hold herself inside her own body. Her thoughts began to blur at the edges, names smearing into silence before she could grip them. Elo. She froze. Her own name had broken in half. Elo what? Elowen. Elowen Mar. She tried to say it aloud, but the darkness pressed a hand over the sound. Elo. Nothing. Terror finally broke through her stillness. Not fear of death. Fear that death would arrive and find no one left to kill. She dug her nails into her palm until pain sparked. Pain meant body. Body meant living. Living meant name. She forced herself to remember the forbidden one first, the name so hated by the roof that perhaps it could wound the darkness back. the only name she had been condemned for keeping. Seralyra. The ceiling above her shuddered. A single star appeared in the black roof, then another, then hundreds. Pain flared across Elowen's arms, shoulders, throat, and face as light burned under her skin. She gasped, curling forward, but the stars did not stop. They spread over her body like a sky returning from exile. By dawn, the stone door opened. Cadron stood outside with the court behind him, already holding the blank book as if it would prove she had disappeared. But Elowen was standing. Alive. Remembered. Every missing star burned across her skin. And on her heart, larger than all the rest, shone a star shaped like Queen Seralyra's crown. For one breath, no one in the dragon court remembered how to speak. Elowen stood beneath the open door of the starless roof, with the dawn behind her and the stolen sky burning on her skin. Stars glowed across her arms, shoulders, throat, and cheeks, small at first glance, but alive with such sharp silver light that the nobles nearest the arch stepped back as if each one were a blade. The chamber behind her was no longer fully black. Its ceiling glittered faintly now, not with a real sky, but with the memory of one returning through a woman the court had expected to forget. Lord Archivist Cadron stared at her with the blank record book still open in his hands. The pages were no longer blank. A single star burned on the first page. Not drawn, not written, burning. Cadron snapped the book shut. Too late, Cassian saw. The Dragon King moved before anyone else dared. He crossed the threshold into the starless roof, and the moment his boot touched the black floor, the stars across Elowen's skin flared brighter. She swayed, not from fear, but from the terrible exhaustion of surviving a room designed to unmake her. Her mouth was dry. Her thoughts still had holes in them. She knew her name now, but she held it carefully, as if it were a cup filled too close to the rim. Elowen Mar, Seralyra. Cassian stopped an arm's length away, his amber eyes fixed on the star above her heart. The largest one, the one shaped like a crown. No courtier breathed. "What is that?" he asked. His voice was low enough to be private and dangerous enough to reach every ear. Elowen looked down. The star on her chest pulsed beneath the torn gray cloth of her dress. Its shape was delicate, like a crown made of 5 burning points. When it brightened, pain spread through her ribs, as if something inside her had begun to remember for 2 people at once. "I do not know," she whispered. Cadron recovered then. He stepped forward, his black star metal ring dull and tight around his finger. "Your Majesty, step away from her. The roof has not recorded her. It has infected her. Star curses often imitate royal symbols to provoke grief." The crown star on Elowen's heart burned hotter. Cassian did not turn. "You said the roof records true stars." "True stars," Cadron said smoothly, "not false constellations made by a desperate woman under erasure." Elowen lifted her head. Her body ached. Her mind still felt scraped raw, but the word false cut through the fog. "You sound very certain for a man whose book just tried to remember me." The court murmured. Cadron's eyes sharpened. "You survived one night under darkness and already mistake yourself for judgment." "No," Elowen said. "I mistake myself for alive." The nearest stars along her wrist flickered. Cassian's gaze moved there. Beneath the light, he saw the scar on the inside of her wrist, the old cut, the first attempt to prove her blood cursed. Before he could ask, Cadron opened the book again and pressed his ring against the page. Black light spread from the star metal. The burning mark on the paper dimmed. Elowen felt it in her skin. A star on her shoulder went cold. She gasped. Cassian turned at once. "What are you doing?" Cadron froze. Only for a second. Containing contamination. With a record book? The royal archives are sealed against false memory. The star on Elowen's shoulder flickered again, weakening under the pressure of his ring. Now she understood. The book was not only recording, it was suppressing. The same kind of blankness the roof had pressed into her mind now moved through her skin from Cadron's hand. She stepped toward him despite the dizziness. "Take your ring off the page." Cadron smiled faintly. "You do not command the archive." "No," she said, "but the stars seem to hate it." The ceiling answered. One of the tiny lights above them detached from the black obsidian and fell not down like a stone, but forward like a memory choosing a mouth. It landed on the open book. The page ignited silver. Cadron cried out and jerked back, his ring smoking. The star wrote a name across the page. Eric's Vade. The court went still. Cassian's face hardened. Who is Eric's? No one answered. Cadron closed the book again, but the name burned through the leather cover from inside. Cassian looked at him. Open it. Your Majesty, open it. Cadron's jaw tightened. He opened the book. The name Eric's Vare glowed at the top of the page, followed by a line of smaller star script. First son of King Marin, recorded unborn, murdered before inheritance. A noblewoman fainted. Someone cursed under his breath. Cassian stared at the letters as if they had cut him. There was no Prince Eric's. The crown star on Elowen's heart pulsed. A voice whispered from the starless roof. Not Elowen's. Not Sidron's. A woman's voice, soft and distant, buried under years of black stone. There was. Cassian went utterly still. Elowen felt the sound pass through her chest before it reached the room. The star on her heart flared with the shape of a crown again, and for one terrible moment, she saw a woman in a silver chamber, hair dark as night, hands stained with starlight, pressing both palms against the same black roof from the inside. Seralyra. Cassian's face changed. Pain opened before pride could shut it. Mother? Cadron slammed the book closed. The voice vanished. The star on Elowen's chest dimmed so violently she nearly fell. Cassian caught her. The court gasped. His hands closed around her arms, strong and warm, steadying her against black stone. Every star on her skin brightened where his fingers touched, as if his blood recognized the names she carried even before his mind could bear them. Cadron's expression went white. Release her, he said. Cassian did not. Elowen looked up at him. He was close enough now that she could see gold flecks in his amber eyes, close enough to feel his breath catch when the crown star answered him again. She is carrying erased royal names, Cassian said. Cadron's voice sharpened. She is wearing a dead woman's curse. The starless roof groaned. Another star fell from the ceiling. Then another. Then 10. They struck Elowen's skin like sparks entering flesh. She cried out as names burned across her arms in constellations too old for her body to understand. Eric's, Lunara, Violin, Sereth, infant heirs, dragon daughters, vanished princes, names written unborn, foreign, traitor, fever, ash. Cassian held her upright while the court watched its clean history burn onto the cursed woman it had tried to erase. Cadron stepped back. His ring pulsed black again. This time, every star on Elowen's skin turned toward it. Cassian saw. So did the court. The Dragon King's voice dropped into something colder than command. Uncle, he said, why are the missing stars afraid of your ring? Cadron looked at the burning names, then at Cassian, then at Elowen, and for the first time, the archivist's perfect calm cracked. They are not afraid, he whispered. The black ring opened like an eye. They are trying to return. They are trying to return. Cadron's words should have sounded like confession. Instead, they sounded like warning. The black star metal ring on his finger opened like an eye, its center splitting into a narrow, dark pupil. For one breath, every star on Elowen's skin pulled toward it. Pain tore through her arms and throat as if invisible hooks had been buried beneath each glowing mark. Names flickered across her skin, brightening, dimming, fighting to stay. Eric's, Lunara, Violin, Sereth. Others she could not read fast enough before the ring dragged at them. Cassian's grip tightened on her arms. Stop it! Cadron looked at him with a strange grief in his face now. Not enough to soften him, but enough to make him more dangerous. You think I started this? The ring pulsed. Elowen cried out. The crown star above her heart flared, and the chamber shook so violently dust fell from the black ceiling. Cassian turned his body between her and Cadron. Take it off. If I remove the ring, every erased name will rush back at once. Then remove it. Cadron's eyes sharpened. And if those names break your throne, if they break your mother's memory, if they reveal heirs your father's line murdered before you were born? Cassian went still. The court heard the question and became afraid in a new way. Not afraid of Elowen, afraid of what she carried. That was how power survived, Elowen realized through the pain. It turned truth into a threat before the truth could become evidence. The untitled book in Cadron's hand began turning pages by itself. Each blank sheet fluttered violently, but no ink appeared. Only small burns, like stars trying to push through paper from the wrong side. Cassian's voice was low. My mother spoke through that roof. Cadron's mouth tightened. A voice that sounds like a dead queen is still not proof. Elowen lifted her head. Her lips were cracked. Her body felt too small for the sky burning inside it. But the word proof struck something deep in her, something older than fear. Then let the roof prove it. Cadron looked at her. So did Cassian. Elowen forced herself to stand without leaning on the king's hands. Cassian released her slowly, but he did not step away. She felt his presence at her side, hot and controlled, like dragonfire held behind teeth. She looked up at the starless roof. The black ceiling had regained some darkness, but now tiny lights trembled beneath the obsidian, hundreds of them, as if the night itself had been buried alive above her. You recorded them, she whispered, not because they were false, because someone needed them hidden. The roof answered with a sound like stone remembering rain. A star fell. It struck the floor between Elowen and Cadron, spreading into a flat pool of silver light. Inside it, a vision opened. A nursery chamber, a cradle carved with dragon wings. A woman standing over it, young and terrified, holding a baby wrapped in dark silk. Her face looked like Cassian's around the eyes. Queen Seralyra. Beside her stood Cadron, younger, his hair still black at the temples, the same star-metal ring on his hand, though it looked smaller then, less like an eye and more like a sealed wound. Seralyra whispered, "You said the roof only erased traitors." Cadron's younger face was pale. "That is what I was told." "Then why did it take my daughter's name?" The present court inhaled as one. Cassian did not move. Elowen felt his stillness like a blade drawn halfway from its sheath. In the vision, Seralyra reached into the cradle and lifted a cloth. There was no baby inside, only a small star burning where a body should have been. Cadron stepped back. The succession council said the child was stillborn. Seralyra turned on him. "I held her," she cried. She had Cassian's eyes. The vision flickered. The star on Elowen's left shoulder burned with a name. Heirs, Cassian's sister. The name struck the room like thunder. Cadron slammed the book shut, but the vision did not vanish. The starless roof had begun to remember without him. Seralyra in the vision clutched the star to her chest, sobbing not loudly, but with the controlled horror of a queen who had learned the palace listened even to grief. "Find where they put her," she commanded. Younger Cadron lowered his head. "If I ask too loudly, they will know you remember. Then ask quietly." The vision changed. A secret archive. A wall of black books. Names scraped out of royal lineage charts. Cadron discovering one erased heir. Then another. Then many. His hand shook as he wrote them into the untitled book. Not to erase them. To keep them from being fully lost. Elowen looked at the present Cadron, startled. He saw her understanding and hated it. "Do not make me noble," he said. The vision darkened. Cadron knelt before an older king, Cassian's father, King Veyron, while the succession council watched from shadow. Veyron's face was cold. "My wife is asking questions." Cadron clutched the untitled book. Because her child was stolen from record. Her child was removed to prevent civil war. She was an infant. She was a rival claim. Seralyra burst into the chamber, holding a star in both hands. Her name was Heirs. The black ring on Cadron's finger flared. Not by his command, by the king's. The ring opened like a mouth. The star in Seralyra's hands screamed. Cassian made a sound in the present chamber. The vision bent around it, showing the final moment. Seralyra shoved the star into the ceiling of the starless roof before the ring could devour it. Then she turned to Cadron. "If I vanish, make someone remember the sky." The ring struck. Seralyra disappeared into black light. The vision shattered. Silence crushed the chamber. Elowen stood trembling, stars burning across her skin. The largest crown star above her heart, now joined by another tiny star near her collarbone. Heirs. Cassian looked at Cadron. "My sister," he said. Cadron closed his eyes. "Yes." The word was quiet. It destroyed the room anyway. Cassian stepped forward, but Elowen caught his wrist before he reached his uncle. She did not know why until she felt the ring pulse again. A trap. Cadron was not the only keeper of it. The black star metal ring suddenly tightened around his finger, cutting into flesh. Cadron gasped. Blood slid down his hand, dark as ink. The ring's eye turned toward Elowen's heart. Cadron's face went white. "Move away from her," he said. Cassian's eyes burned. Why? Because the ring was made to return erased stars to the bloodline that ordered them erased. The court did not understand. Elowen did. Her skin went cold beneath the burning stars. "If it opens," she whispered, "the names go back to the killer's blood." Cadron nodded once, jaw clenched against pain. "And every heir she carries will disappear again." The ring split wider. The stars on Elowen's body began to lift from her skin. Cassian turned to her, horror breaking through command at last. And from inside the starless roof, Queen Seralyra's voice whispered, urgent and afraid, "Do not let the ring touch my son. Do not let the ring touch my son." Queen Seralyra's voice came from inside the starless roof like a breath pressed through stone. Cassian froze. Not from fear, from the impossible pain of hearing his mother warn him after 20 years of silence. The black star metal ring on Cadron's finger split wider, its dark eye opening toward Elowen's heart. Every star across her skin pulled upward, as if invisible threads had hooked beneath them. Names lifted in sparks from her arms, her throat, her shoulders. Eryx, Lunara, Valen, Serath, Valyra. The missing heirs trembled between flesh and air, trying not to be swallowed again. Elowen staggered. Cassian caught her before she fell, but the moment his hand touched her waist, the ring screamed. Not allowed. Inside every skull, inside every record book, inside the black ceiling itself. Cadron gripped his bleeding hand with his other palm, trying to force the ring closed. "Get back, Cassian." The Dragon King's eyes burned amber. "You expect me to trust you?" "No," Cadron said through clenched teeth. "I expect you to trust her." The words struck hard enough that even the court went silent. Elowen looked at him. Cadron's face was pale with pain. His perfect archivist mask cracked beyond repair. Blood slid down his wrist and dripped onto the blank record book, where it turned into small black stars that burned holes through the pages. "The ring was made by your father's council," he said. "It does not destroy erased stars. It returns them to the bloodline that ordered the erasure. If it touches Cassian, every name you carry will be pulled into him, buried under royal blood, and rewritten as inheritance." Cassian's jaw tightened. "Meaning?" Elowen answered, voice rough. "The murdered heirs disappear again, and your bloodline looks clean." The ring pulsed. A star tore free from Elowen's left shoulder. She cried out. Cassian moved instinctively, reaching for the falling light. Cadron shouted, "No!" Elowen seized Cassian's wrist before he touched it. The star hovered between them, shaking like a frightened living thing. Inside its light, a child's face appeared for one heartbeat, a dragon girl with Cassian's eyes and dark curls, reaching from a cradle that no longer existed. "Valyra." Cassian stopped breathing. Elowen held his wrist with all the strength she had left. "If you take it, she vanishes." His hand trembled. Not from weakness. From the cruelty of being offered his sister only as another burial. Slowly, Cassian lowered his hand. The star returned to Elowen's skin and burned brighter than before. The starless roof groaned. Cadron sank to one knee, still fighting the ring. "It is waking because she survived the roof. The names have a living sky now. The ring will not stop until it finds royal blood or breaks her body trying." The court began to panic. Some nobles edged away from Elowen as if the returned stars were plague. Others looked toward Cassian, waiting for command, for execution, for anything that would make the impossible simple again. Lord Captain Draven, one of the old council's remaining commanders, stepped forward with a drawn blade. "Your Majesty, if the cursed woman is the vessel, remove the vessel." Cassian turned. The torches outside the arch flared red gold. Draven stopped, but did not lower his sword. "Forgive me, my king, but if killing one archive girl saves the bloodline..." Cassian crossed the distance so fast no one saw him move. His hand closed around Draven's throat and slammed him against the wall. "The next man who calls murder preservation," Cassian said softly, "will explain it without a tongue." Draven dropped his sword. Elowen stared at Cassian through the fever of starlight. He had not chosen her. Not fully. Not yet. But he had placed his body between her and the court without asking what it would cost him. That made the ring rage. It tore another star from her skin, then another. Elowen screamed as names lifted from her like wounds reopening. The ceiling above her answered, releasing thin streams of silver light that fell into her body faster than the ring could pull them out. For every star the ring stole, the starless roof returned 2 more. The chamber became a battlefield of memory. Kydron gasped. It will kill her. Cassian released Draven and turned back. How do we stop it? Kadron looked down at the ring. Then, at the black ceiling. The ring answers royal command. Cassian's face hardened. Then I command it to stop. He lifted his hand. The ring laughed, not with a voice, with every erased name it had ever swallowed. Cassian staggered as the sound struck his blood. The star on Elowen's heart blazed the crown-shaped star, Seralyra's star, and for a moment she saw the truth. The ring had been trained not to obey the king, but to protect the version of history that made him legitimate. Royal command would only feed it. Elowen forced herself upright. Not command. Cassian looked at her. His face was still furious, but now there was fear beneath it. Fear for her, fear of touching the wrong thing, fear that every instinct he had as king might be exactly what the ring wanted. What then? Elowen pressed both hands against her burning chest. Refusal. Kadron lifted his head slowly. Understanding broke across his face like dread. The Starskin witness does not return names by taking power, he whispered. She returns them when royal blood refuses to reclaim what it erased. Cassian looked at him. Speak plainly. Kadron swallowed. You must refuse the stars. The court recoiled. Cassian stared at Elowen. The largest star on her heart pulsed like a second heartbeat. His mother's crown. His sister's name. The murdered heirs of his line. All burning inside a woman his court had tried to erase. If I refuse them, he said quietly, do they die? Elowen did not know. That was the horror. The starless roof answered with Seralyra's voice, faint but clear. No, my son, you refuse to own them. Cassian closed his eyes. For one breath, he looked younger than a king should, younger than war, throne, crown, and 20 years of being told his mother vanished because she betrayed him. Then he opened his eyes and stepped before Elowen. The ring stretched toward him, greedy and black. Cassian did not reach for it. He did not command it. He looked at the stars burning across Elowen's body and spoke loud enough for every noble, guard, and record-keeper to hear. I refuse inheritance built from erased names. The ring screamed. Cassian's voice deepened. I refuse my sister's disappearance as the price of my throne. Valera's star flared on Elowen's collarbone. I refuse my mother's silence. The crown star over Elowen's heart burned gold white. And I refuse every murdered heir being returned to my blood as if theft can become succession by touching a king. The black star metal ring cracked. Kadron cried out as the fracture cut into his finger. The untitled book burst open, pages whipping violently as the stars on Elowen's skin stopped lifting and settled back into place. The court stared. Cassian turned to Kydron. Now break it. Kadron looked at the ring, and for the first time Elowen saw the full weight of his guilt. He had not forged the erasures. He had kept fragments, hidden them, feared them, used the tools of the killers to preserve evidence until the evidence began to resemble obedience. I cannot remove it, he said. It was sealed to the archivist's blood. The starless roof darkened. Then Seralyra's voice whispered, not by his blood. The crown star on Elowen's heart released a single ray of light. It struck the record book. A hidden page appeared at the back, one that had been folded into itself for 20 years. Kadron opened it with shaking hands. There, written in star script, was the first command that had bound the ring. By order of King Veyron and the Succession Council, all erased heirs shall return to royal possession if discovered. Cassian's face went still. My father, Kydron whispered. Yes. The ring pulsed again, weaker now, but not dead. Elowen saw what had to happen before anyone said it. The command must be answered by the blood that inherited it, she said. Cassian looked at her. She looked back, not asking him to bleed for her, not asking him to save her, only holding truth between them, because there was nowhere left to hide it. Cassian drew the dagger from his belt and cut his palm. The smell of dragon blood filled the chamber, hot iron, smoke, gold fire, old grief. He pressed his bleeding hand not to Elowen, not to the ring, but to the hidden command on the page. "I am Cassian Veyr," he said, voice steady and terrible, son of Seralyra, son of Veyron, heir to the blood that ordered this erasure. The page burned under his palm. "I revoke possession." The ring cracked again. "I name every erased heir outside my claim." The stars across Elowen's skin blazed. "I return memory to the murdered, not to the throne." The black ring shattered. Cadron collapsed as the fragments fell from his finger like dead ash. For one impossible breath, every star on Elowen's body lifted not away from her, but around her, circling like a living sky. They did not flee to Cassian. They did not sink into the book. They hung in the air, each one holding a name. Then the starless roof opened. Not physically. The black ceiling became a night sky. And from that sky, Queen Seralyra stepped down in a cloak made of stars. Queen Seralyra stepped down from the open sky. No one screamed. The court had gone beyond screaming. Every noble, guard, and record keeper in the starless chamber stood frozen beneath the impossible night, now burning where the black ceiling had been. The starless roof had become a sky again, but not the kind men prayed beneath. It was too full of grief, too full of names. Hundreds of stars circled above Elowen, and each one carried the faint shape of a face, a cradle, a crown never worn, a dragon heir erased before memory could claim them. Seralyra's feet touched the black floor without sound. She was not flesh. Not exactly. Her body was made of pale starlight and royal sorrow, her dark hair drifting as if under water, her cloak woven from constellations that had once been children. Her face looked like the broken portrait Cassian had kept hidden in the western chapel, only younger, fiercer, and infinitely more tired. Cassian did not move. His bleeding hand remained pressed against the open record book, but his eyes were on her, as if looking away would kill him. "Mother," he said. The word cracked. Seralyra turned to him. For one breath, all the court vanished from her face. She looked only at her son. "My little flame," she whispered. Cassian flinched as if the tenderness hurt worse than any accusation. Elowen stood between them, trembling beneath the stars still burning across her skin. The crown star over her heart pulsed with Seralyra's presence, but the queen did not reach for it. She looked at Elowen first with something that felt dangerously like gratitude. "You remembered my name when the roof tried to eat your own," Seralyra said. Elowen's throat tightened. "I almost forgot it. But you did not. I almost forgot myself." Seralyra's eyes softened. "That is where erasure begins, not in books. In the moment a soul becomes too tired to hold its own name." Cassian looked from his mother to Elowen, and the pain in his face deepened. He had seen her standing at dawn, covered in stars, but he had not seen the darkness nearly take her. Now he understood there had been a moment under the roof when she had fought not to live, but to remain someone death could find. Lord Archivist Cadron pushed himself upright on one shaking hand. The black ring was gone, shattered into ash around his fingers, but blood still ran from the wound it left behind. "My queen," he whispered. Seralyra looked at him. The chamber chilled. "You kept fragments," she said, "and called that courage." Cadron bowed his head. "I could not stop the council." "No," she said. "You feared becoming one of the names you hid." The truth struck him harder than anger. His shoulders collapsed. Cassian's voice came low. "Show me what happened." Seralyra turned back to him. "If I show you, you will hate the dead." "I already hate what they left." "And yourself?" That silenced him. The question moved through the chamber like a blade looking for a wound. Seralyra stepped closer, but did not touch him. "That is why the ring wanted the stars inside your blood. Not only to clean the succession, to make you carry crimes you did not choose until guilt made you easier to command." Elowen understood then why Seralyra had warned him not to touch the stars. It was not because Cassian was guilty. It was because the old bloodline had built a machine that turned discovery into inheritance. If the names returned to him, the throne would absorb them, apologize for them, and still own them. Cassian lifted his bleeding hand from the book. "Then let them stand outside me." The stars above Elowen brightened. Seralyra looked at her son for a long moment. Then witness what your throne was built to forget. She raised one hand. The sky inside the chamber opened. The first vision fell like silver rain. A nursery, a baby boy with gold scales along his wrists, a council blade, a record line changed from living air to fever ash. Another vision, a young dragon princess standing before a window, begging not for a crown, but for her name to remain beside her twin brothers. A black-robed counselor pressing star metal against her brow until her reflection vanished from every mirror. Another, a child wrapped in blue silk, carried from the queen's chambers to the starless roof, while the court outside celebrated a clean succession. The stars around Elowen pulsed with each name. Eryx, Lunara, Violen, Sereth, Vailira. More. Too many. Cassian stood through all of them. He did not look away, but every name carved something into him. His jaw tightened. His dragonfire flickered beneath his skin, not wild now, but wounded. Elowen saw him try to absorb the horror as kings did, to make himself large enough to hold it all. She also saw the moment he realized that would be another kind of theft. He stepped back from the stars, not abandoning them, refusing to own them. "I witness," he said. "I do not claim." The starless roof answered, with a low sound like the first breath after drowning. Seralyra's gaze moved to Kydran. "Open the lower archive." Kydran Menpala. "My queen." "Open it." His eyes flicked toward the court. Several nobles stiffened. Elowen saw it. Cassian did too. The lower archive was not only where Elowen had copied damaged records, it was where the unfinished erasures slept. Kydran's voice shook. "If the lower archive opens, the living names will return with the dead." Seralyra's face hardened. "Yes." A noble lord stepped forward, trembling with fury. "Your Majesty, this is treason against the bloodline." Cassian turned. The lord stopped. The Dragon King's voice was soft. "No, this is the bloodline being made to answer." The noble's hand moved toward his sword. Elowen saw the motion before anyone else. A star on her wrist flared. "The name there Valen burned so hot," she cried out. The vision struck her. The same noble house, a dagger, a child heir smothered beneath a white funeral cloth. The lord lunged, not at Cassian, at Elowen. Cassian moved, but Seralyra was faster. The queen's starcloak snapped outward. The attacking lord froze mid-step, silver light wrapped around his throat. Seralyra looked at Cassian. "Do you see? The dead are not the only ones afraid of being named." The lord choked. "She is carrying lies." Elowen stepped toward him despite the pain burning through her skin. "No," she said, voice shaking. "I am carrying the people your family called lies after they were too dead to argue." The stars flared. The lord's dagger fell. Cassian faced the court, his amber eyes burning like a storm behind glass. "Seal the doors," he ordered. This time, no one mistook his command for fear. The guards obeyed. Kydran slowly lifted the untitled book. The pages turned until they reached a black page at the very end, sealed with 7 starless marks. He pressed his wounded hand to it. The floor beneath the starless roof split open. A staircase appeared, descending into darkness filled with faint, buried constellations. Seralyra looked at Elowen. "The lower archive will open only for the one who survived forgetting." Elowen's breath caught. Cassian turned to her at once. "No." The word came too quickly, too much like a command. Elowen looked at him. He heard himself and stopped. His face changed, shame cutting through fear. "I mean," he said carefully, "you have already paid enough." Something in her chest softened, despite the terror waiting below. Then she looked down at the buried stars. "No," she said, "I have only survived the door." She stepped toward the staircase. Cassian did not stop her, but he did walk beside her. The stars on Elowen's skin brightened as they descended. Behind them, Queen Seralyra's voice followed like a promise and a warning. "The dead names are awake now, but the living erased will be angrier." The staircase beneath the starless roof descended farther than any archive should have gone. Elowen walked first because the buried constellations would not brighten for anyone else. Each step woke a faint star in the black stone under her bare feet. The light climbed through her skin in answer, spreading across her arms and throat until she looked less like a prisoner and more like a sky forced into human shape. Cassian walked beside her, close enough to catch her if she fell, not close enough to claim the choice as his. She felt the restraint in him like heat held behind a closed door. Above them, the court remained sealed inside the chamber with Queen Seralyra's starlit ghost and Lord Archivist Cadron's bleeding record book. Below them, the lower archive breathed. The walls widened into a circular vault lined with shelves carved directly into black rock. No candles burned there, no lamps. The only light came from thousands of tiny stars trapped inside glass jars, bone scrolls, silver boxes, and cracked crystal tablets. Some burned steady, some flickered weakly. Some were nearly black, as if the names inside had been starved for too long. Elowen stopped at the threshold. A sound came from the vault. Not voices exactly. Remembering. Cassian's face hardened. These are all names? Cadron had followed them down with shaking steps, one hand pressed around the ruined place where his ring had been. He looked older under the starlight, less like a royal blade and more like a man made of delayed confession. Not all dead, he said quietly. Elowen turned. Cadron swallowed. Some were removed before they could threaten succession. Some were hidden in exile. Some were given new names in servant houses. Some lived entire lives unable to remember what blood they carried. The stars on Elowen's skin flashed cold. Living erased, she whispered. A jar on the nearest shelf cracked. Inside it, a small blue-white star trembled and projected an image onto the vault wall. A boy with dragon, gold eyes scrubbing stable floors, unaware that his blood could have lit a throne room. Another star opened beside it, showing a woman in a border convent who touched fire without burning and believed herself cursed. Another revealed twins separated before speech, each raised under a false house name so neither would awaken the other. Elowen's breath grew unsteady. The Starless Roof had not been only a grave. It had been a storage room for inconvenient blood. Cassian stood motionless as the images moved around him. His jaw tightened with every living face. Elowen saw the old instinct rise in him, the king's instinct, to gather, protect, command, repair by force. Then he looked at her, and the instinct stopped before becoming law. "What does witness require?" he asked. The question nearly undid her. Not because she had the answer, because he had finally learned to ask before touching the wound. Elowen looked around the lower archive. The stars were not all reaching for her. Some recoiled, some hid deeper in their jars, some burned angrily when Cassian came too near. "They cannot all be returned at once," she said. Cadron nodded, pained. "If every living erased name wakes tonight, families will break, houses will fall, children will learn their mothers lied, servants will become heirs, heirs will become murder evidence. The kingdom could tear itself apart by sunrise." Cassian's eyes remained on Elowen. "And if we do nothing?" A star in a cracked silver box went out. No one spoke. That was answer enough. Elowen stepped deeper into the vault. The stars across her body pulled toward the shelves, but not greedily. They answered like scattered embers, recognizing the fire that had survived. She reached for the nearest jar, then stopped with her hand above it. The image inside showed a little girl asleep in a servant dormitory, one arm curled beneath her cheek. A faint star burned behind her ear. Elowen pulled her hand back. "No," she whispered. Cassian came closer. "No? She is sleeping. She did not choose this." The vault stilled. Even Cadron looked startled. Elowen faced the shelves, the jars, the countless stolen records. The dead can demand witness. The living must be asked. The stars flickered. One by one, the living stars dimmed, not dying, but settling, as if the names inside had heard the difference between rescue and another form of theft. Cassian looked at her then with something that frightened her more than suspicion had. Reverence. She did not want reverence. She wanted room to breathe. He seemed to understand, because he looked away first. Cadron opened the untitled book. There is one record that cannot wait. A black shelf at the center of the vault, unlocked by itself. Inside rested a crystal tablet shaped like a broken wing. No star glowed in it. Instead, darkness swirled beneath the surface, thick and alive. Cassian's dragonfire rose under his skin. "What is that?" Cadron's voice dropped. "The first erasure under your father's reign." The tablet turned toward Elowen. Pain struck the crown star over her heart. Queen Seralyra appeared in the darkness, not as the star-cloaked ghost above, but alive, young, desperate, holding a newborn girl wrapped in blood-red silk. Valyra, Cassian's sister. The vision showed King Veyron standing before Seralyra, the succession council behind him. Seralyra's voice shook with fury. "She is your daughter." "She is a rival flame," Veyron said. "She is an infant. She is a future war." The council placed the black ring on Cadron's younger hand. Cadron looked horrified, but he did not refuse. Veyron gave the command, "Erase the girl. If Seralyra remembers, erase what must be erased in her too." Cassian stepped back as if struck. The vision did not stop. Seralyra ran. She carried Valyra through the palace, down into the lower archive, and pressed the baby's star into the starless roof before the ring could swallow it. Then she looked into the darkness, not at Cadron, not at Veyron, but at the future. "At least one witness must survive me." The image shifted. Seralyra turned toward a cradle hidden in a servant quarter. Inside lay another baby. Not royal, not dressed in silk. A child with 3 faint stars beneath the skin of her wrist. Elowen stopped breathing. Cadron closed his eyes. Cassian turned to her slowly. The tablet showed Seralyra placing one hand over the servant child's wrist. Not stealing, not sealing, but protecting. "If the sky cannot remain in the palace," the queen whispered, "let it hide in the girl no one will look at." Elowen's legs almost failed. The little girl was her. The Starskin witness had not awakened by accident. Seralyra had hidden the last living sky inside Elowen before she vanished. Cassian whispered her name, but before he could reach for her, the black tablet cracked. A voice, colder than Seralyra's, filled the vault. King Veyron's voice. "If the witness wakes, return her to the roof. Let the stars eat their vessel before they accuse the throne." The shelves shook. Every dead star in the lower archive turned toward Elowen. Not to honor her, to enter her. Cassian drew his sword as the vault erupted in silver fire. And Elowen realized the Starless Roof had not finished testing whether she could survive the sky. Every dead star in the lower archive turned toward Elowen. Not gently, not like names seeking shelter. Like a sky collapsing toward the only body left strong enough to hold it. The first star struck her shoulder. Elowen screamed. It entered through the skin and bloomed beneath her bones with a name she did not know, a face she had never seen, and the final terror of a dragon child smothered before his first flight. Another star hit her throat, another her spine, another her ribs. Each one carried a life cut from record, a cradle emptied, a fever invented, a daughter renamed servant, a prince recorded unborn while his blood still warmed the sheets. The lower archive exploded in silver fire. Cassian stepped in front of her and raised his sword, but steel could not cut names. The stars curved around his blade and rushed toward Elowen anyway. His dragonfire burst under his skin, gold and furious, but the archive drank the heat and threw it back as memory. Elowen, his voice reached her through pain. Barely. She dropped to one knee, both hands pressed against the stone floor, her body turning into a map of murdered history. Stars burned across her arms so densely her skin looked less human than sky. The crown star over her heart flared brightest, Seralyra's mark fighting to keep the others from tearing her apart. Cadron staggered toward the central shelf, clutching the untitled book. "They are entering her too quickly." Cassian turned on him. "Stop it. I cannot command erased names. You kept them here. I kept them from being destroyed. You kept them in jars." Cadron flinched. The accusation landed because it was true. Elowen forced her head up. "Do not argue over me like I am already dead." Both men stopped. The stars kept coming. A child's laugh became a scream beneath her skin. A queen's final breath opened behind her eyes. A boy's name burned along her collarbone. Then another, then another. She could feel herself thinning under them. Her own name trembled at the edge of her mind again. Elowen Mar. Elowen. Elo. No. She dug her nails into the stone. No. The Starless Roof had tried to erase her by taking her name. The lower archive was trying to erase her differently by filling her with everyone else until there was no room left for the woman who had survived the dark. That was not witness. That was another kind of burial. She understood then. The dead were not cruel. They were desperate. They had been trapped for so long that the first living sky felt like escape. They did not see that escape through her body would destroy the one witness Seralyra had hidden for them. Elowen lifted one shaking hand. Stop. The stars did not stop. Cassian moved toward her, and the dead stars swarmed between them like a storm of silver knives. His face tightened, not with fear for himself, but with helpless rage. He could burn armies. He could command dragons. He could frighten a court into silence. He could not order pain to leave her body. Elowen, he said, lower now. Tell me what to do. The question cut through the storm. Not a command. Not a rescue forced onto her. A choice handed back when even the dead were taking. Elowen looked at him through the burning stars. Do not claim them. I will not. Do not fight them like enemies. His jaw tightened. They are killing you. They are trying to be remembered. Another star struck her chest. She bent forward, gasping. For one terrifying breath, she forgot the shape of Cassian's face. Then Seralyra's crown star pulsed, and it came back. Elowen looked toward the vault shelves. Open the book. Cadron hesitated. If I open it fully, every stored name may imprint at once. No, Elowen said, not on me. Cassian understood first. On the pages. Cadron's face went pale. The book was made to suppress them, then make it confess, Elowen said. Cadron looked down at the untitled book in his hands. His whole life had been inside that object. Fear, compromise, fragments disguised as courage, evidence preserved by the same mechanism that had helped erase it. If he failed now, the book would remain a prison. If he obeyed, it might become a witness. He opened it. The pages were black, not blank. Black with all the names pressed beneath them. Elowen placed her burning hand on the first page. Cassian stepped closer. The stars tried to surge toward him, but he raised his bleeding palm and spoke before they could touch. I refuse possession. The storm paused. His voice deepened. I witness without inheritance. I grieve without claiming. I answer without owning. The stars around him trembled. Then, one by one, they stopped attacking. Elowen felt the difference immediately. The names inside her still burned, but they no longer clawed. They listened. She pressed harder against the page. Return to record. Not to prison, not to throne, not to blood. Record. The first star left her skin. She cried out, not because it hurt more, but because it took the child's final memory with it. For a heartbeat, grief made her empty. Then the star sank into the book and wrote a name in silver. Aaron Veyer. The page did not swallow it. It held. Another star left her arm. Seralyra Veyer. Another. Maroth of the Ash Wing. Another. Lunith, daughter of no recorded mother. Name after name entered the book. The lower archive shook as jars cracked open, boxes split, tablets unfolded, and trapped stars flew toward the pages instead of Elowen's body. Cadron knelt beside the book, weeping silently as every blank record he had preserved became an accusation he could no longer hide from. Cassian stood over them both with his bleeding palm raised, repeating the same vow each time a star turned toward him. I refuse possession. Again, I witness without inheritance. Again, I answer without owning. Each repetition cost him. Elowen saw it in the way his shoulders tightened, the way his dragonfire flickered, as if the throne itself were being cut out from beneath his ribs. But he did not stop. He let every erased heir remain outside his bloodline, outside his claim, outside the clean succession the court had built from murder. At last, only one star remained inside Elowen. The crown star over her heart. Seralyra. The queen's light did not move toward the book. It pulsed once, then opened inside Elowen's chest. The lower archive vanished. She stood in a memory of the Starless Roof 20 years earlier. Seralyra knelt alone beneath the black ceiling, one hand pressed to her heart, one hand pressed to the stone floor. Stars burned across her skin just as they burned across Elowen's now. King Veyron stood beyond the arch. Cassian's father. His face was cold with the kind of grief that had chosen power over love and called it necessity. You should have let the girl disappear, he said. Seralyra lifted her head. Vylira is your daughter. She is a threat. She is a child. She is a future civil war. Seralyra laughed once. It broke into a sob. Then, perhaps the throne deserves war. Veyron looked at Cadron, younger and terrified beside him. Erase her. Cadron raised the ring. Seralyra looked not at him, but at the ceiling. Then she whispered, "If I cannot carry the sky to my son, let it find the girl no one thinks worth remembering." The black roof opened beneath her skin. She did not vanish instantly. She chose where the largest star went, into Elowen, into the infant servant child sleeping in a forgotten room above the lower archive. A witness hidden where no king would look. The memory shattered. Elowen returned to the vault on a gasp. The crown star over her heart lifted from her skin at last, but it did not enter the book. It floated between her and Cassian. Inside it, Seralyra's voice spoke clearly. "My son, the throne did not kill me because I betrayed you. It killed me because I refused to let your sister be erased." Cassian's face broke, only for a breath. Then the king inside him tried to stand over the sun. Elowen saw the battle. "So did Seralyra. Do not turn grief into another crown," the queen whispered. Cassian closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were wet and burning. "I witness you," he said. "I do not claim your sacrifice." The crown star softened. Then it entered the book, writing Seralyra's name above all the others. Queen Seralyra Vade, mother of Cassian, protector of Veylyra. First star returned. The lower archive fell silent. Elowen collapsed. Cassian caught her before she hit the stone. This time, the stars did not flare from his touch. They glowed softly, settled into records instead of wounds. He held her carefully, as if she were made of both glass and fire. Above them, from the starless roof, the court began to shout. Cadron looked upward, horror returning to his face. "The living erased," he whispered. "They will feel the records open." A distant roar shook the palace. Not dragon, not thunder. Voices, hundreds of them, waking across the kingdom. Cassian lifted Elowen in his arms, and this time she did not have strength to object. He looked at the staircase leading back to the court. "Then we bring the book into the light." The untitled book rose from the floor by itself, now burning with every returned star, and on its cover, a title finally appeared. "The Sky They Buried." Cassian carried Elowen out of the lower archive with "The Sky They Buried" floating behind them like a second dawn. The book did not look large enough to hold so many names. That was the horror of it. All that grief, all those erased heirs, all those children renamed as accidents, fever, ash, foreign shame, unborn silence, and forgotten daughters had fit for generations inside one untitled record, while the palace above kept feasting, crowning, mourning, and lying. Elowen's head rested against Cassian's shoulder, though she was aware enough to hate how weak she felt. Her body was no longer being torn apart by the dead stars, but the absence they left behind ached in strange places. Her arms felt light, her ribs hollow. The crown star over her heart had settled into the book, and without it, the world seemed colder. Still, she remembered her name, Elowen Mar. That was enough for one breath. Then another. Cassian's arms tightened slightly as they climbed the black stairs. "Stay awake." It was not an order. Not quite, but it had the shape of fear trying to dress itself as command. Elowen opened one eye. "I survived the starless roof. I can survive stairs." His mouth did not smile, but something near pain shifted. "Do not make me admire you while you are half dead. That sounds inconvenient for you. It is becoming a pattern." The words were too quiet for the court above, meant only for the narrow stairwell, and the book of returned stars following them. For one fragile moment, the terror loosened its grip enough for Elowen to feel the danger beneath everything else, the warmth of his body, the restraint in his hands, the way he held her as if strength mattered, only if it did not become another prison. Then the shouting above sharpened. Cassian's expression hardened. The starless chamber had changed while they were below. When they emerged, the court was no longer frozen in awe. It had split into fear. Nobles crowded near the sealed doors, demanding release. Guards held formation, uncertain which terror to obey. Lord Archivist Cadron stood near the black roof's threshold with blood running down his hand, his face pale as old parchment. Queen Seralyra's ghost burned at the center of the chamber, faint now, her star cloak thinning as the returned names settled into the book. And near the arch, Lord Captain Draven had gathered 6 men in red council armor. Their swords were drawn. At their feet lay one dead guard. Cassian saw him. The air changed. Draven lifted his blade, its edge dark with blood. "Your Majesty, step away from the vessel." The word vessel passed through Elowen like cold iron. Cassian lowered her carefully to her feet, but did not move in front of her until she could stand on her own. That mattered. Even now, the sky they buried floated between them and the court, its cover blazing with silver stars. Draven pointed at it. "That book cannot leave this chamber." Cassian's voice was low. "It already has. The lower archive is sealed law. Those names are not public witness until the Succession Council confirms them." Seralyra's ghost turned her head slowly. The whole court felt her contempt. Draven swallowed, but did not lower his sword. With respect to the dead queen, the living realm cannot be ruled by grief. Elowen laughed once. It hurt her throat. Every eye turned to her. She steadied herself on the edge of the floating book. That is what men always say after burying someone else's child. Draven's face tightened. "You are not queen. You are not council. You are an archive curse wearing stolen stars." Cassian moved. Elowen caught his wrist, the same way she had stopped him from touching Valyra's star. He looked down at her hand, then at her face. She shook her head, not because Draven deserved mercy, because he wanted Cassian's rage. He wanted the Dragon King to kill a council captain in front of the court while holding the cursed woman's wrist, so every returned name could be blamed on seduction, madness, grief, and unlawful violence. Cadron saw it too late. Draven is buying time. The book flared. A page opened by itself. A new star burned across it, red at the edges. Elowen's stomach dropped. There are records still being erased. Seralyra's ghost dimmed. The upper archive. Cadron went white. The public lineage hall. Draven smiled. There it was. While the court stared at Elowen, while Cassian descended to the lower archive, while Seralyra returned and the ring shattered, someone had gone to destroy the living lineage records. If those burned before the sky they buried reached them, every returned name would stand unsupported by public law. The court could call the book cursed, a forgery, a grief relic. Cassian turned to the guards. "Secure Draven." Draven lifted his bloody sword higher. "Any man who touches me chooses a star witch over the realm." Several guards hesitated. Elowen felt Cassian's fury like heat against her skin. But she also felt the court watching, waiting. The old trap again. Choose her and risk the throne. Protect the throne and let her be buried. Elowen stepped forward. Her legs nearly failed, but she remained upright. The stars on her skin had faded to faint silver embers now, but they woke as she approached Draven. Not violently, not enough to hurt, enough to show that something inside her still answered when lies came close. "Lord Captain," she said, "whose name are you burning?" Draven's smile vanished. The book turned another page. A star burst open. A vision appeared above the chamber, the public lineage hall, its marble walls covered in dragon family trees, its golden record shelves stacked with birth scrolls and bloodline seals. Men in red council armor poured black oil across the lowest shelves. One held a torch. At the center of the wall was Cassian's line. Beside it, newly appearing in silver, was Valyra's name. The man with the torch lifted his hand. Cassian roared. The sound shook the starless roof. Dragonfire burst from his shoulders in gold-black wings, not fully formed, but close enough that every noble dropped back in terror. His eyes burned molten amber. His grief had found a target, and this time Elowen did not stop him. Because the book had shown the truth. Because Draven had already raised the blade. Because some moments did not require gentleness. Cassian pointed toward the sealed doors. They exploded inward. Not from fire, from stars. The names in the sky they buried flew ahead of him, silver lights racing through the corridor like a storm of witnesses. Cassian followed with his guards, his cloak snapping behind him, dragonfire lighting the walls. Elowen tried to follow. Her knees buckled. Seralyra caught her. The dead queen's hands were made of light, but they held. "Not every battle asks you to bleed," Seralyra said. Elowen looked toward the corridor where Cassian had vanished. "He will kill them." "He may. That will not save the records if the oil catches." "No," Seralyra said. But you can. Elowen's throat tightened. I can barely stand. Seralyra touched the center of her chest, where the crown star had been. The sky is not gone from you. It is no longer trapped in you. The sky they buried opened beside them. Every returned name glowed on the pages, waiting. Elowen understood. The stars did not need to be carried in her skin anymore. They had a record now. But Witness was not only remembering, it was connecting truth to the places built to deny it. She placed both hands on the book. Pain did not tear through her this time. Light did. A silver path opened from the Starless Roof, through the palace corridor, toward the public lineage hall. Elowen saw Cassian racing ahead with his guards, saw the councilmen turn with torches, saw Draven's last conspirator smile as flame kissed black oil. Elowen whispered the first return name, Eric's. A star shot from the book, then another, Lunara, another, Vaelen, Sereth, Velira, Seralyra. The names flew through the palace and struck the lineage hall walls before the fire could spread. Every public record lit silver, every hidden erasure appeared. Every burned birth scroll rewrote itself in starlight faster than flame could consume it. The men with torches screamed as the walls around them filled with faces. Not ghosts attacking, witnesses watching. Cassian reached the hall a heartbeat later. He saw the fire die against silver names. He saw Velira's place restored beside his own. He saw his mother's line burn clean across the royal wall. Then he turned on the men who had tried to erase them again. Back beneath the starless roof, Elowen swayed. The book closed gently under her hands. Draven stared at her, finally afraid. Not of her curse. Of the fact that she no longer needed the court to believe her before the walls did. Cadron stepped forward, voice hollow. Lord Captain Draven, by record of returned sky, you raised arms to destroy royal lineage witness. Draven spat at his feet. By whose authority? The chamber went silent. Elowen looked at the book. Seralyra looked at her. Cadron looked ashamed. Then Cassian's voice carried from the corridor, low and furious. Mine. He returned with blood on his armor, but not much. His own, perhaps. Someone else's. His dragonfire had settled under his skin, controlled, but still dangerous. 2 guards dragged the surviving councilmen behind him. The torches were gone. Their hands were bound in silver record chain. Cassian stopped before Draven. The captain's face hardened. You choose the cursed woman over the realm. Cassian looked at Elowen first. Not to ask permission. To remember the difference between choice and possession. Then he faced Draven. No, he said. I choose the realm over the men who kept feeding it children and calling the silence peace. The sky they buried opened one final time. A star burned on the page. Lord Captain Draven, keeper of the Second Erasure Order. Cassian read the line. Then the page turned, and beneath Draven's name appeared another. King Veyron Vare, Cassian's father. The chamber fell still. Elowen felt the next truth before it arrived. The lower archive had revealed the dead heirs. The lineage hall had restored their names. But the Second Erasure Order had been signed after Seralyra vanished, meaning Cassian's father had not only erased his children and wife, he had planned for the day they might return. Cassian stared at his father's name. Then, from the sky they buried, a final black page unfolded. On it was written one sentence in dead star script. If the Starskin witness survives, crown her false and let the sun kill her. If the Starskin witness survives, crown her false and let the sun kill her. The sentence did not burn. It waited. That made it worse. Every star in the sky they buried dimmed around the black page, as if even the returned names feared the shape of that final command. The starless roof above them once opened into a sky, darkened at the edges. The court stood frozen between horror and relief, because fear always searched for a familiar victim, and King Veyron's dead order had offered them one. Crown her false. Let the sun kill her. Elowen stood beside the book with both hands, still trembling from the effort of saving the lineage hall. The stars on her skin had faded to faint silver embers, but at the sight of the black page, each one began to burn again. Not with power, with warning. Cassian stared at his father's command. For a moment, he was utterly still. Then he looked at Elowen. The whole court watched that look. Lord Captain Draven, kneeling in silver record chain, smiled through blood on his mouth. Your father understood what you refused to see. The witness is not a woman. She is a threat wearing a woman's face. Cassian did not answer. That silence made Elowen's heart beat harder. She knew, even before he moved, that the trap was not as simple as command. Veyron had not trusted future courts to obey ink alone. He had built his order into blood, crown, archive, and memory. A dead king's command could sleep for years inside his heir and wake when the right fear struck. Cadron saw it too. His face went ashen. Cassian. The Dragon King's right hand twitched toward his sword. Elowen stepped back once. Not because she believed he wanted to hurt her, because his eyes had changed. Amber still, but veiled now, as if something dead had laid a hand over the flame behind them. Seralyra's ghost moved between them, her star cloak flaring. My son. Cassian's jaw tightened. His hand closed around the sword hilt. The court gasped. Elowen's chest hollowed. There, it was the final cruelty of the erasure. Not only to kill the witness, to make the son of the murdered queen do it, to turn Cassian into the last lock on his mother's silence. Draven whispered, "Obey the blood." Cassian drew the sword. Gold dragonfire ran along the blade, but it was wrong, too dark at the edges. The flame flickered with black star metal sparks, the same dead glimmer that had lived inside Cadron's ring. Cassian looked down at the weapon, as if seeing a serpent in his own hand. "Move," he said. Elowen did not know if he spoke to her, to Seralyra, or to the thing inside his blood. Seralyra reached for him. The black command flared from the page. Cassian swung, not at Elowen, at his mother. The blade passed through Seralyra's star cloak and tore a cry from the starless roof itself. The queen staggered, light bleeding from her shoulder in thin silver streams. Cassian froze, horror breaking across his face. "Mother." The black page burned brighter. His body turned toward Elowen again. Elowen understood then. He could resist the direction, but not the motion. The dead order had awakened inside the blood he inherited. Every attempt to fight it would still seek a star to cut. Cadron shouted to the guards. "Hold him!" "No," Elowen said. Her voice stopped them. She stepped away from the book and faced Cassian fully. His sword shook in his hand. "Elowen," he said, and the sound of her name came out broken, forced through teeth clenched against command. "Run." The old her might have obeyed. The archive girl, the cursed woman, the prisoner under the starless roof who had nearly forgotten her own name. She might have run because survival had always meant finding the smallest shadow and fitting herself inside it. But the stars behind her had no shadows left. "No," she said. The black page pulsed. Cassian took one step toward her. Every noble held breath. Elowen placed her palm over her heart, where Seralyra's crown star had burned. The star was no longer inside her. It had entered the book. But a warmth remained. Not possession, not power, only witness. "Veyron's command says the son must kill the witness," she said, voice trembling but clear. "Then let the witness answer the son." Cassian's eyes flashed with panic. "Do not come closer." She came closer. His sword lifted. The effort to hold it back tore a growl from him, not human, not dragon, but something trapped between grief and fire. His dragon fire flared beneath his skin, fighting black sparks that crawled along his veins. Elowen stopped just beyond the reach of the blade. "Cassian Veyr," she said, "son of Seralyra, son of Veyron, blood of the order that erased the stars." The black page glowed. The sword steadied. Draven smiled. Then Elowen lifted her chin. "I refuse to be crowned false." The stars in the sky they buried ignited. "I refuse to become the lie that makes your father's command clean." Cassian's hand trembled. Elowen stepped closer, until the sword's point hovered inches from her chest. "And I refuse to let you inherit murder as obedience." The blade shook violently. Cassian's face twisted with pain. "I cannot stop it." "Yes," Elowen whispered. "You can answer it." His eyes locked on hers. Not king to prisoner. Not dragon to cursed woman. Man to woman, both standing inside a command, meant to destroy them differently. "How?" he breathed. Elowen reached out. The court cried out in warning. She placed her hand, not on the blade, but over Cassian's fist around the hilt. Gold fire burned her palm. Black sparks bit into her skin. She did not let go. "The command names you, son," she said. "Answer as yourself." Cassian closed his eyes. The black page flared one final time. Behind him, Seralyra lifted her wounded face. "My little flame." Cassian opened his eyes. They were no longer veiled. "I am not my father's hand," he said. The sword cracked. "I am not the grave of my mother's witness." The black sparks screamed. "I am Cassian Vare." His grip tightened over Elowen's hand, not to trap it, but to hold himself steady beside her. "And I choose what my blood answers." He turned the blade. Not toward Elowen, not toward Seralyra, toward the black page. Cassian drove the sword through King Veyron's final command. The starless roof exploded into light. The black page burned from the center outward, but it did not vanish. It changed. The dead order split open, revealing every signature hidden beneath Veyron's sentence. Draven, 3 succession lords, 2 star metal priests, a royal healer, and Cadron's old seal not as author, but as witness who had failed to refuse. Cadron sank to his knees. Draven screamed and lunged forward, dragging the record chain until it cut into his wrists. "You have killed the succession!" Cassian pulled the sword free from the burning book. "No," he said. "I have killed its hiding place." The stars above the court descended, not into Elowen's skin, not into Cassian's blood, into the floor, the walls, the lineage arch, the royal banners, the empty throne beyond the chamber. Each erased name burned itself into the palace stone, where no archivist could close a cover over it again. The court watched their history become architecture. Then the starless roof lowered one final star. It hovered before Cassian. Small, bright, Seralyra, his sister. Cassian went still. The star did not enter him. It waited. Elowen looked at him. "She is not yours to claim." His throat moved. "I know." The star drifted to the open book and wrote Seralyra Vare beneath Seralyra's name. Daughter, sister, erased heir, returned outside succession until her own will is known. Cassian's breath broke. Seralyra's ghost smiled through fading light. "She lived," the queen whispered. The chamber stilled. Elowen turned slowly toward her. "What?" Seralyra looked at the book, then at the eastern corridor beyond the broken doors. "My daughter was erased from the palace," she said, "not from the world." A new star appeared on the final page. Not dead silver, living gold. Somewhere beyond Ravengard's borders, a woman carrying the vanished princess's name had just remembered who she was. The court erupted. Cassian stared at the living star. Grief and hope warring so violently in his face that Elowen wanted to reach for him again and did not know if she had the right. Then Seralyra's light began to fade. Cassian stepped toward her. "No." She touched his face with a hand made of starlight. "You found the witness," she whispered. "Now find your sister." Her gaze moved to Elowen. "And do not ask the sky to carry what the king is afraid to answer." Elowen bowed her head once. When she lifted it, Seralyra was gone. Only her name remained in the book. Cassian stood in the ruined chamber with a broken sword, a bloodied hand, and a throne behind him that no longer looked clean. Elowen stood beside him, burned palm aching where she had held his hand against the command. The stars on the walls glowed steadily. For the first time, the starless roof had nothing left to swallow. By the time dawn reached the starless roof, the court no longer knew where to look. Not at the black ceiling, which had become a living sky. Not at the walls where erased heirs burned into stone. Not at the untitled book, now named The Sky They Buried, lying open with Queen Seralyra's name above a living star that pulsed somewhere beyond Ravengard's borders. Seralyra Vare, daughter, sister, erased heir, alive. Cassian stood before the book without crown, without clean history, and without the mercy of ignorance. His broken sword hung at his side. The hand Elowen had gripped still trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the effort of refusing a dead king's command written into his blood. Lord Captain Draven tried to rise again. The silver record chain tightened around his throat and dragged him back to his knees. "You have no authority to rewrite succession through a cursed woman's skin," he spat. Cassian looked at him. The Dragon King's eyes were quiet now. That was worse than rage. You signed the second erasure order, Cassian said. Draven's mouth hardened. I protected the realm from Star Witch contamination. Elowen stepped forward before Cassian could answer. Her palm still burned from the sword. Her body ached from carrying too many names. But the stars were no longer tearing through her. They had settled into the walls, the book, the roof. She was not empty. She was not full of the dead. She was herself again, and that made her voice steadier than she expected. You protected a lie that needed children erased to survive. Draven glared at her. You think return names will make the kingdom gentle? No, Elowen said. I think hidden names made it obedient. The starless roof glowed above her. The sentence wrote itself in silver along the archway. Hidden names made the kingdom obedient. The court saw it. Draven saw it. For the first time, fear crossed his face without anger to disguise it. Cassian turned to the gathered nobles, archivists, guards, and council witnesses. Every person named in the second erasure order will be held under record chain until public inquiry. Every erased heir, dead or living, will be entered into the royal lineage hall. No succession claim will be settled until Seralyra Vare is found and asked what name she chooses to carry. The chamber erupted. She could raise a rival claim. She may be dead by the time you reach her. She may not remember the throne. She may hate it. Cassian's jaw tightened. Then Ravengard will learn to survive a woman's answer. The words struck the court like dragonfire. Elowen looked at him then. He had not said sister. He had not said heir. He had said woman. Not possession, not blood right, not lost jewel of the crown. A person who would be asked. Seralyra's final warning had reached him. Do not ask the sky to carry what the king is afraid to answer. Cadron remained on his knees beside the book, one hand wrapped in blood-soaked cloth where the star metal ring had been. He had not tried to flee. That did not cleanse him. Elowen knew too well that guilt could kneel and still hope to be mistaken for virtue. Cassian looked down at him. You kept the fragments. Cadron bowed his head. Yes. You used the tools that erased them. Yes. You watched my mother vanish. Cadron's voice broke. Yes. Cassian's face hardened, but the grief in his eyes made the anger deeper. Why? Cadron closed his eyes. Because I was afraid that if I died, the names would die with me. And because fear is a very convenient excuse when a man does not wish to admit he chose survival. Silence followed. Elowen hated that the answer was honest. She hated more that honesty did not undo harm. The book turned a page. Cadron's name appeared. Lord Archivist Cadron Vare. Keeper of fragments. Witness to erasure. Preserver without refusal. Cassian read it aloud. Cadron flinched at every word. The starless roof waited. Cassian said, You will not be executed. A few nobles exhaled. Cassian's eyes moved over them, and their relief died. You will spend the rest of your life opening every sealed record you helped preserve. You will speak every name before the families who lost them. Every time you say you could not stop it, the book will show what you did instead. Cadron bowed lower. I accept. Elowen looked at him. That is not enough. He lifted his eyes to her. No, he said, it is not. The simple admission settled between them. No forgiveness, no absolution. Only the first stone laid in a road too long to see the end of. The court was forced from the starless roof, one by one. Not released. Recorded. Each noble passed beneath the archway, and the stars in the stone brightened or dimmed as they went. Those tied to erasure were marked by silver ash on their sleeves. Those innocent of the orders but guilty of silence carried no visible mark, which somehow seemed to shame them more. By midday, the royal lineage hall had become unrecognizable. Where clean family trees had once carved Cassian's bloodline in gold and red, new names burned in silver. Eryx, Lunara, Valen, Serath, Seralyra, Seralyra, dozens more. Not all heirs. Not all claimants. Not all dead, but all real. The people came quietly at first. Servants, archive girls, stable boys, old nurses, guards who had carried royal infants and been told never to ask where they went. One by one, they stood before the wall and remembered things they had been trained to dismiss as dreams. Elowen watched from the side of the hall. No chains now. No guards holding her. No black roof above her head. Still, she felt the urge to count exits. Cassian approached but stopped a few steps away. He had washed the blood from his armor, but not replaced the broken sword. He wore no crown. The absence suited him more than the red gold ever had. "You should rest," he said. "You should search for your sister." "I will. Soon. At first light tomorrow. Riders are already being prepared." Elowen nodded. The name Seralyra glowed on the wall between them. Living gold. Not proof of safety, only proof of existence. Cassian followed her gaze. "Will you come?" The question was careful. Too careful, perhaps, but she respected the effort. Elowen looked at him. "As witness?" His expression tightened. "Only if you choose that." "As what then?" He took a breath, and for the first time since she had met him, the Dragon King looked uncertain, not because of politics, but because the truth mattered too much to shape poorly. "As the woman who remembered my mother when I did not dare speak her name," he said. "As the woman who stopped my hand from becoming my father's. As Elowen Mar, if she wishes to walk beside me, and if she does not, then, as no one's obligation." The words reached her slowly. She wanted to distrust them. Part of her still did. Trust was not a door that opened because a king finally knocked. "You know I may leave," she said. "Yes. You know I may refuse the book." "Yes. You know I will not become your royal sky." Cassian's eyes held hers. "You are not mine to become anything." The starless roof, far above them, answered with a faint shimmer through the palace stones. Elowen looked down at her burned palm. The wound had begun to silver at the edges, a scar forming where she had held his hand against the sword. Not a mark of ownership, a mark of refusal. She had refused to be erased. He had refused to inherit murder. Between those refusals, something dangerous had begun. Not love yet, not safely, but the first true shape of it. "I will come until Seralyra is found," she said. Cassian bowed his head once. "Thank you. And after that, I decide again." "Yes." She looked toward the restored wall, where Seralyra's name burned steady above her children. "Then I decide yes. For now." Cassian did not touch her, but his dragon fire warmed the air between them, gentle for once, no command inside it. That evening, the starless roof was opened to the people. No prisoner stood beneath it. No sentence was read. The black chamber had become a sky of returned names, each star burning where darkness had once swallowed memory. Families came with candles. Some found ancestors. Some found children. Some found proof that grief they had carried without explanation had belonged to someone real. Cadron stood at the entrance and read names until his voice broke. Draven and the other conspirators knelt in record chain beneath the first arch, forced to hear every life their orders had tried to erase. Cassian stood in the center of the chamber, crownless, while Elowen placed the sky they buried on a stone altar open to all. The book did not belong to the archive anymore. It belonged to witness. When the final candle was lit, the ceiling shifted. A new star appeared. Small, faint, not royal. Elowen's breath caught. Her own name wrote itself beside it. Elowen Mar. Survived the starless roof. Carried the returned sky. Not a curse. Not a vessel. Witness. For the first time since the chamber had been built, the starless roof remembered the living without taking them. Cassian stood beside her, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. "Your star is not in my bloodline," he said softly. "No." "Good." She looked at him. He looked back, and the dangerous warmth between them no longer felt like the beginning of a cage. Outside, night fell over Ravengard. But inside the palace, the sky remained. And when Elowen walked out beside the crownless Dragon King, the court did not whisper that the cursed woman had survived. They whispered that the stars had chosen to remember her.